Maintenance University. I'm back. It's been some time. I got this great presentation that I gave about communication, the importance of communication. You can notice a few things in there with great reference of understanding what good communication looks like and what bad communication looks like, because we all communicate. It's just how are we communicating? Are we articulating our words? Are we articulating our message in a certain way? Are we creating imagery with our words so people understand what we're trying to say? Check out this video. Let's go.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I want to take time out. Today, we're going to real quick talk about communication. I just asked before we begin, I understand everyone's busy. We got stuff going on. If you have to take a phone call, I just ask you to take it out there. If you got to shoot a text message, I just ask you to take it out there just to minimize distractions. But I got some great examples of some professional communication. So let's begin.
Mature, responsible things.
Sure thing to do. How many remember Blockbuster growing up? It was a weekly event for me. I promise you, every Friday and every Saturday, my family, we were all going to Blockbuster. We were going to get the latest video game. We were going to get the latest movie. Whatever was out, we were going to get it. And there was one movie store called Movie Scene. They had free popcorn, so we used to go there too. So we alternated Blockbuster Movie Scene. But I think looking back, as I was preparing for this communication, I think that's when I really started communicating, because my mother wasn't going to go talk to the clerk or the Blockbuster representative about a video game coming out. She forced me and my brother to go talk. So I had to build that relationship with the employee or the employees. I had to go use my persuasive skills. Like, hey, you sure there's not one in the back IQ that you have? Are you sure that person who you had on reserve for didn't show up? So again, I think that's where my communication really kind of began. And here's another good example of communication.
What do you really want to know?
Okay, I was wondering who the father of my baby was.
All right, let's take a look. The Miss Cleo DNA test. I'm slowly searching for the father of your baby. It's the one that's very unpleasant, okay? And he's also the one that had another girlfriend while he was sleeping with you.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's him. That's the daddy.
Okay.
But you knew that.
I wasn't sure.
I don't know how. The baby looks just like him.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, so you were in denial. Because he has a funny little chin, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and the baby have that same little chin.
Oh my God.
The cards can reveal things that you will never see by yourself. Come in for your free tarot reading.
8637.
I'll leave that slide up a little bit just in case y'all want to take that number down. Give her a shout later. I know this commercial, only time I saw this commercial was two reasons. One, I was up past the Howard Stern show and it came on, little Chick Blues bobbing his head. And then two, I woke up way too early and it was on because there was no cartoon. The only times I saw that. Miss Cleo, she was a communicator. I mean, we used to have a running joke growing up as a kid. I wonder if I call her, is she gonna know, hey, James, I knew you were gonna call. I was waiting for your call, because she obviously could see everything. But again, when you saw that and when it came on, you saw a Blockbuster commercial, you probably at least sat there and was like, oh, Blockbuster, that's pretty good. When you saw Miss Cleo, I'm sure like the most of us, you guys probably just changed the channel right away. So the Warrant Officer's Voice, communication with a purpose and impact. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chief Marion. I'm a ground maintenance tech. I'm down at Fort Story. I've been doing ground maintenance probably, my whole career. And today we're going to talk about communication, purpose with an impact. And as I was deep diving and preparing for communication, it made me think, when is the first time I heard communication? When was the first time I understood leadership and communication? I joined the Army when I was pretty older in life. I was 26 when I joined the Army. I was already established. I had 2 kids. I worked in the workforce. I was a subcontractor. So I knew what talking with customers meant. I knew what customer representative, I knew what sales was. But I didn't really understand leadership and communication until I joined the Army. And the earliest time I can remember when it really affected me was during basic training. It was basic training in Fort Jackson. It was cold. It was the first time I got to wear my gator neck. And we were out there at the range. And as we were shooting on the range, the first sergeant pulled some of us to the side. And as he pulled some of us to the side, we were walking up to this field area. And on the field area, I just had like this. At the time, it was just tape. I was like, what the heck is this tape? And now I know it was engineer tape. He had the engineer tape laid out in a square box. And the square box was, it was a shoot house. He was an infantry first sergeant. So he wanted to teach us infantry tactics. Made sense. Cool. Great. Now, as he was talking to us, there's 2 things that stuck with me that I still use to this day. And I'm sure some of you guys probably use the same. As he was going through his tactics, he was like, as an infantryman, we want to kiss when we go into the door. Like, you want to kiss when you go into the door? Yeah, you want to keep it super simple. I was mind blown. Like, oh my gosh, I never heard an acronym like that ever in my life. I was 26 years old. First time I heard that acronym, I thought it was great. And I still use it to this day with my mechanics. A lot of the times I get this, Chief, it won't start. All right, no problem. Get out of my chair. I walk over there, put the coffee down, walk to him. As we're walking, I always ask him, hey, did you kiss this problem before we started it? What do you mean, Chief, did you kiss this problem? Well, did you keep it super simple? And what I mean by that is I tell them, hey, did you do the bare basics first? 8 out of 10 times I go over there, it's either out of fuel or it's not neutral. That's why it won't start. So that's why that really resonated with me, and I still use it to this day. His other thing that definitely resonates with me that I still use to this day is he uses acronym, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I was mind blown. That night, I'm pretty sure I wrote that night in my little notebook of my green notebook we all had. I wrote slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And again, I still use that to my mechanics to this day. I tell them if you want to do it twice, do it fast. If you want to do it once, do it right the first time. Take your time. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Which leads me to that first I really had a purpose and impact. And that's when I started understanding my purpose and impact as leadership in the Army as we come up. And as warrant officers, we don't want to be the Miss Cleos. We don't want to be uncertain. We don't want to just be flashy. We want to make sure that when we speak and we talk, we have our purpose and impact. And there's a few things as warrant officers that I want to point out. First, this uniform gets us in the Army, but this gets us in the door. I promise you right now that we could walk into any organization or any area and this gets us access, believe it or not, compared to others. And I promise you right now, you could go into Chief Allen's office or even Brigade Commander's office and ask for that conversation and dialogue just because what we have on our chest, because we're the subject matter experts. That gets us in the door. The second thing is our words carry weight. We might not realize it, but the same thing how that first sergeant, yes, he was a first sergeant, but that first sergeant's words stuck with me. When we say things, when we're in front of a formation, believe it or not, like the eyes are on us because we're warrant officers speaking. It's definitely different compared to when they got a sergeant out there, lieutenant out there. Our words carry weight. It means something. It definitely matters. Yes, we're considered as quiet professionals, but at the same time, we are subject matter experts and our recommendation and our inputs matter. Warrant officers are the Army's technical experts, integrators, and trusted advisors. Their input is critical to the command team's ability to make informed decisions and accomplish the mission. This was an article I pulled, or this was a quote that I pulled from the Warrant Officer College, Volume 1. It's the home of us. And our communication, it says it right there. Their input is critical to the command team's ability to make informed decisions and accomplish the mission. If you haven't done it already, I'm sure you will have an influence to change a policy. I'm sure you will, or I know you will have the influence to change a procedure or a program because they look to us because our input matters. It helps them make those informed decisions that they have to decide or do. Which leads me to my third point is our communication as warrant officers. We don't want to get misunderstood. So what's the so what behind all this? Why'd you gather me here in a room and we're talking about communication? Like, I kind of know this already, so who cares? Well, the so what is our sphere of influence. It's real. Believe it or not, our sphere of influence is real. Our words do carry that weight. Our words do they do matter. So when we're in front of formation or we're speaking, we have to ensure that we're talking, that we know what we're talking about. And we have to make sure that the message that we say or we're going to say makes sense. So as we move on, we're going to talk about real quick 3 pillars of effective communication: logic, credibility, and emotion. Now, the first one is logic. A lot of us do logic on our own already. And what do I mean by logic? Well, when we get ready for a meeting, we need to make sure, does our message have a purpose and does it make sense? We don't want to go into a readiness maintenance meeting and we're talking about HR metrics. We don't want to go into a HR metrics meeting and talk about maintenance. We have to make sure what we're talking about does apply to the situation at hand. And we want to make sure we want to stay away from complication. A lot of times I've seen it before. We'll go into a meeting and we start rattling off all this data and facts and jargon. Sometimes that does work, but 9 out of 10 times it doesn't. And if you've been around communication and if you've been around speakers, you'll hear them say, stories stay and facts fade. And it's true. If you're able to provide a story to a situation, it's going to tie. If you're able to provide a story to the situation, it's going to make them. It's taking your words and creating that imagery to tie it all together to the importance of the matter at hand. So we have to stay away from sometimes just rattling crazy facts. So credibility. So I want to talk about credibility real quick. Credibility, I think we already have, just because, again, what's on our chest. But the same thing that's on our chest, we have to be careful because a lot of us see us just as warrant officers. They don't realize that each warrant officer does have a different MOS. And when I say that is if they see one warrant officer ate up, everyone's going to imagine all warrant officers are ate up, which can be difficult. So we have to be careful with our credibility. Our second thing about credibility, we have to stay away from tiptoeing into an area we don't know what we're talking about. Then it pulls away from our credibility. So if I'm ground maintenance, I am not comfortable speaking anything watercraft related because then I'm just going to look ate up. And if this person doesn't know me, they just see a warrant officer. So now they're going to think all of us are ate up just because that one was ate up. So we have to be careful with our credibility in what we're speaking in. We have to make sure we stay in our lane. The other thing that takes away from our credibility is I'm guilty and I'm still working on it. And some of us do, and a lot of us do all the time. It's filler words. We all use the filler words, the uhs, the ends, the maybes, and shoulds. Those are words that take away from our credibility when we are trying to speak on a situation or something we know what we're talking about. So we have to be careful with those filler words. And I have an example from when I was in a meeting, this wasn't here, a while back ago, of a brief I was in with the warrant officer speaking. And I wrote it down again, just because we'll talk about it later, feedback and taking notes and recording, but mention it. But this is how I have this, just in case we're wondering. It says, I think maybe we should possibly consider updating the system if that makes sense. Now, when you're in a meeting and you're speaking to field grade officers or company commanders, we can't use those words because as we saw on the slide before, our input matters. What we say matters. We might not be the ones signing the policy change, but we damn sure are the ones affecting that policy just because our input, and our input does matter. So if we make a commander in a situation look bad, that's kind of really on us because we're the one that advised them. They looked at us first for the answer. A second example I have is there might be an issue with the tactical system. I'm not sure if it was 7 or 8. Maybe we'll figure it out later. That is not an answer that I would want to give or hear as a brigade commander or company commander in a given situation. That takes away from our credibility. So we have to be careful with the words that we use. We don't want to use those filler words. And my favorite one that I want to talk about is emotion. So we know our logic. We know we have to know what we're talking about. I know I have the credibility and I'm going to stay in my lane. But how do we tie in this emotion? The emotion part goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Facts fade and stories stay. A lot of times, if we're able to tie in the emotion with the situation at hand, we'll get more of a buy-in. If I just recommend or go to a company commander and say, hey, our OR rate is 8% or 8 out of 10, we're not going to be able to do anything. We're looking horrible. They're just going to be like, oh, okay, we're just looking horrible. But if I'm able to tie in the emotion as a company commander, and we're not going to be able to go on this mission, and if we fail this mission, it looks bad on us, and if it looks bad on us, it looks bad on the brigade, it looks bad on the brigade, and even looks bad on the nation, and from the nation to a public, we have to figure out how to tie words and tie that emotion into the situation at hand so we could get that buy-in, so we could show them the sense of urgency or the importance of it. And that's why I love the effect of emotion. Emotion can get things done if we're able to take our words and paint that imagery of our words. Communication is the building block of relationships. So we are a cohort and we really make our money with relationships and networks. I can't say enough on how much I'm sure we all received a phone call from somebody we didn't even know, but since they're a warrant officer, we went out of our way to help them out. And it's the same thing when we're working with each other and we're working in our formation. We need to make sure we're trying to build relationships to help others, whatever they need or whatever they're going through. We have to make sure we're tying in those emotions. And a few ways that I work on myself, in a few ways that I try to prepare myself. Again, this is something I've been working on. Is the brief method. All right, so the brief method is something really simple and it's really quick. It's something that I use. I used it to prepare now, and I promise I'll probably use it to prepare again more in the future. Is we need to make sure before we brief that we have a background. And we provide only essential context. We don't want to, again, this goes back, we don't want to be speaking on an area we don't know anything about. We want to make sure that we do our research. We want to make sure we have a reason. I think it was last week, I don't remember the gentleman's name, he brought up 2 good points when it goes into a meeting. He said we need to either make sure we have a product or a decision that needs to get done. I don't remember his name or who it was, but he said that last meeting. It makes sense. We need to make sure there's a reason behind it. Our information, we need to make sure we have our key technical details when we're talking. And then our end state. What is our end state after all this? My end state after all this is at least, after the 15, 20 minutes I've been talking, you guys maybe at least take a little tidbit away of something. And then follow up. A follow up is very important. You're not going to get better unless you follow up. You're not going to get your results unless you hold people accountable by the follow up. So before we leave today, we need to ask ourselves, do we want to be a Miss Cleo or do we want to be a Blockbuster? Do I want to be all flashy or do I want to be that trusted advisor with insider knowledge? Do I want to be genuine? Do I want to build that emotion? Do I want to build that relationship and connect on an emotional level to influence a decision that I know is best for the organization? And these are 5 techniques that have helped me improve my communication. I prepare and practice deliberately. I record myself. I write down what I want to say or do. Work on eliminating filler words when I'm in meetings like us, shoulds, and maybes. And I try to master the pause instead of using filler words. Having that slight pause instead of saying us or ims, that holds more credit or credibility than it does in saying maybe or shoulds. And then structure your method using the brief background. And then some of you, I definitely will reach out to ask for honest feedback so I can only be better. I want to get better at communicating. I want to get better at presenting myself because I know I'll be in front of the formation again. And I want to make sure that I have an impact and a purpose when I speak. So again, if you guys got any questions or want to contact me, feel free to reach out. QR code will link you to all my information up here up top. Sir, that's all I have, but I'm agree.
That's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed the video. Quick little brief about communication. Remember, it's very important how we speak, what we say, how we articulate, and you're probably influenced more than what you think. Until next time.